And okay, then the other question was, I read a book recently about a Freudian interpretation of dreams, and apparently that was like, sometimes I have dreams that I think the meaning is really obvious, and I just, it's with me immediately. And what Freud would say is, when it's most obvious, that's when your subconscious is like most tricking you, right?
Yeah. He thought every symbol was a symbol for something else.
Yeah, every interpretation, if it's an interpretation you find acceptable, then that's wrong. The real thing is something that you can accept about yourself. It's a wish fulfillment of a wish that you don't feel you're allowed to have.
Sure.
So I was wondering
you
if
feel, or things you feel guilty for wanting.
Yep.
Yeah. No, what was your direct question? You said you wondered.
Yeah, I was wondering if you mess with that. It is Freud. I know, it's Freud.
He gets a lot of shit for the things he, in my opinion, got wrong. But people forget how. And I actually did an episode of the ABC series. I think it was back in number 2 or number 3. I think I called it. I think it was number 3, it was a Freudian trip. We took a trip into the perspective of Freud. So I did talk about this a little bit, but I love talking about it. So just in general on Freud, people forget how groundbreaking he was, because a lot of the things that he was right about are now so automatically assumed as foundational to everything. Sitting down and talking to your patient and asking them, how do you feel? Doctors weren't doing that to help psychology, and try or the idea of that dreams might be relevant to. Now, to be fair, since I'm going back and editing historical literature, there's been a lot of people theorizing dreams as relevant, but a lot of them for centuries focused on messages from God or supernatural sources or demons trying to trick you in your sleep. So there's a very judgmental, moral, supernatural element to it. And Freud kind of turned a hard corner on that and said, this is medical, this is biological, this can be traced to the waking experience of the person and is related to those things. There was some works prior to that did it, but he's the one that really popularized that notion and brought it into as an accepted fact for the last century. So he gets a lot of grief, and a lot of the theories he proposed too, of the idea of, he's not wrong about a lot of the stuff he says, but it's that and more is the way I would phrase it. Is so there's a lot of dreams where, and what am I trying to say? Some of my process is meant to bring that out too, is what does this mean to you? And it asks questions around the subject and tries to put it into context too, so that the thing we're looking at may represent exactly what it is and something else in context of this, and they kind of build on each other. And sometimes it may lean in the direction of, say, well, we were talking in our discussion, is it just wish fulfillment of the cute high school girl you could have had a chance with if you'd tried, or does she actually represent this? And this is where I differ, say, from Freud, is I'm not just going to go, well, of course you wanted to have sex with this young woman. She was very attractive, and this is a wish you regret from your childhood. But then we went a different direction with it in terms of saying there's something about you that is in relationship with this person that is more relevant to the greater context of the dream. So I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. So, but you had some thoughts?
Well, the way, I don't know if this is how much this really reflects. This isn't Freud I read. This is someone's thing. But I think from that perspective, it would have been it's not about the high school girl. It's not about your normal, acceptable attraction for her. There's some other detail that is actually going to betray what it really is about. And I don't know. It's some urge you have that's not acceptable.
Yeah, and that is the direction you went with it.
Yeah, you wouldn't know what it is unless I don't know, found some detail that we could. I don't know. It can't always be that though, right? Sometimes, right?
That's why I'm saying it is that sometimes, and could be more. So what he did was, someone has to advance a theory. There's all the scientific method. So he said, here's what it looks like to me. And people came along later and said, oh, Dr. Freud, you're wrong about this, this, and this. And then other people said, well, wait a minute, your analysis of this, okay, let's scratch A.B.C. was good. We're going to keep something from Freud, and now we're going to build something new, and all these things stacked on top of it. So then eventually you get to me doing this. And I bring in the Freudian perspective too. I think my brain is so loosey-goosey, and I got so much Swiss cheese holes. I think I mentioned ego and superego in our discussion today.
Yeah, you did. Oh, yeah, you did.
Okay,
right.
yeah. So even I borrow those concepts from Freud, but actually the ego predates. That was a pre-existing idea of the self in general. There's all these different phrases. I got a cat laying on the. There he goes. Stop it, son. Stop it. They're determined to delete every episode. I swear, these guys. But even the people that popularized those phrases were building upon pre-existing stuff that already existed. Been theorizing about what is the self or the soul, and then bringing in Eastern mysticism and the yin yang and the mind body duality, and then there's even if you think of all these things as metaphorical and religious systems, and too, you've got kind of a mind, body, spirit connection in the Holy Trinity of Christianity. And so there's different ways of conceptualizing what it is to be human, and all that is kind of going into my process of all these different layers of meaning, metaphors, abstract concept categories. I had a point to all that.
Yeah,
sure did. Freud was in there somewhere. I mean, one of his big contributions, I think, was really formalizing some of the language of saying, let's say the Oedipus and Electra complexes are not exactly precisely right, but he's on to something because it is, and again, it's one of those things where yes, and that is a possibility. It's a possibility that our relationship with our parents and our growing awareness of sexuality, but male-female relationship dynamics. Hey, puppy, he's back. Here's your peanut butter. Hey, okay. So part of our formation of our personality as children is going to be built upon, as a man, how well did you get along with your mother? And were you struggling for attention from her with your father? Or was he more a partner and shared her, and there was a more healthy dynamic? So he was on to a lot of ideas, and then that's where we start getting a lot of the bringing in, say, the Greek and Roman storytelling as a part of our formal understanding of psychology today, and how those things work. Because that's what a lot of these storytellings were. It's what is this human behavior? What does it mean? What does it look like? And so a lot of those ancient stories were, folklore in some ways was like early psychology.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
For sure. That's why I find that all fascinating. Actually, one book I'm gonna get around to eventually is a 1600s version of Aesop's Fables, but I'm gonna edit it and then add my own of like, okay, here's the psychological relevance of each of these stories.
Nice. Cool.
What does the scorpion and the frog tell us? What does the tortoise and the hare tell us? How can we use these concepts to make our lives better today, in psychologically sound principles of healthy living and socialization and different things. So I'm working on that. We're trying to wrap my brain around it.
That'll be cool. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm very inspired by the idea, but it's a big project. Until I figure out how to do it, I'm not going to start. So it's taken a while.
Smart. I know. Yeah. Starting at the right time is important, right?
Yeah. I think
Start too early and then you burn out, and yeah.
Well, also I've been fascinated with dreams for 20 years. I wasn't ready to do this until very recently. And then some life experiences spurred me to give it a try. And I'm digging it. People seem to like it. And, I'm not an overnight sensation, but what do they say? It takes 10 years to be an overnight success. So I just keep at it.
Yeah.
Build an audience.
I found you on Twitter, right?
I'll take your word for it. My memory's crap. I'm sorry.
I wish I could remember. Are you on Reddit?
Yeah, Reddit, Twitter. I'm on like a dozen different social media sites. I just publish everything everywhere. I'm on. You probably never heard of. You might have heard of Gab. You might have heard of
Gab.
Getter, Gettr. You've probably never heard of Flote, Flote.
No, I don't think so.
I just went looking for what else is like Twitter, and I got on a bunch of alternative social media. So one of them is called Float. Whatever floats your boat, post it.
That's smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw on your website you cast a very wide net, which I like. I wonder if that's like too much overhead. But it's really cool that you're on so many platforms.
What I've been able to do is streamline it, and I would love to do an interview a day. I can't do this every day. It's mentally I can't, but also time wise, I don't have enough time to say edit and post. But so once a week I get the videos going, and once I've got a link, I can then post it A B C D E F G H done, and then so I've got if I can encapsulate something into a process and it's just execute the process, I can usually do it pretty. So I can post one announcement of a YouTube video to 12 different sites in less than half an hour, call it a day, do it again later. If I have to reinvent the wheel, it takes me forever. So if I can get a process going, I'm usually functional, barely.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I like that. I try to do something similar with my art and my blog.
Yeah.
Try to keep overhead down and keep my reach wide.
For sure. Yeah. And you never know where someone's going to, and it's unfortunate. Lately, I've been in contact with some people. So I'm always looking for, and I say it at the beginning, try and say it at the beginning of every episode, I'm always looking for new dreamers because right now I'm not overwhelmed with volunteers. I do, fortunately, I'm
surprised because it's a fun experience. I feel like people like talking about themselves and about their dreams. Like,
yeah.
I'll tell people. I already told a couple friends I was doing this.
Please tell all your friends, and I'll talk to anyone. Family. I had one dreamer referred me to a cousin, and she spoke with me the next week. So I think there's a comment. So I was saying that to get around to the idea of I get a lot of response of like, oh, I don't have any good dreams. You think they're boring?
A lot of people say that.
A lot of people think their dreams are boring. Fair enough. It takes a certain person to put yourself out there and be comfortable coming on camera and recorded and put up on a show and questioned. And you start thinking of all the elements that, like, we're just talking right now. But if you really step back and think I'm being recorded, am I saying anything interesting? I have no idea what's going on here. And people just they pull the ripcord. They're out. So I get it. But then that's why I do so much reassurance of like you cannot do this wrong. It's your dream. You remember what you remember. We talk it out. I'm not scary or judgmental. It's not the Jerry Springer show, as I say. But so there's a lot of people cautious and nervous and shy, and they think they're boring or the dream's not important enough. And then a lot of people say, I just can't remember enough of my dreams. Fair enough. I can't either. So I get it.
Right.
But I would encourage everyone, hey, the worst thing that can happen, and I tell this to people all the time too, worst thing that happens, we talk and we both decide there's nothing there. I couldn't give a good interpretation. You couldn't remember enough details. We waste an hour, no skin off my teeth. We can at least give it a try. And I think most people would be pleasantly surprised that how easy it is, how well it works, how, not on the spot you feel. I mean, you're digging through your memory and you got details or you don't, but you can't do it wrong. You just can't.
Yeah. I think you have a great environment for that kind of thing to happen.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and I take it's a lot of the stuff I say off camera to people is I take my ethical concerns very, very seriously of like, I don't post anything without permission. I will take it down upon request. I edit out things people don't want to talk about. You want to pass on a subject or not mention a person because it's private. We don't talk about it. There's never any, no worries, no pressure. That's going to be, I'm going to put that on my tombstone. That's
no worries, no pressure.
That's who I want to be to other people. Don't let anything I do worry you or cause you to feel pressured to do anything. That's, that's awesome. That's my style.
Yeah. Very, very good policy.
Thank you. Well, do you feel like we answered your Freud question? We kind of wandered a bit. I didn't want to leave you unsatisfied.
I think so. Have you ever been interpreting someone's dream and it seems like the surface interpretation was wrong and there's like a sinister interpretation, like what Freud kind of thought would be the case?
I try to get at those things if I can. I don't. It's a delicate tightrope sometimes to
Yeah, you don't want to just throw guesses out there and then.
Yeah, I want it to be relevant, but what I don't do is restrict myself to only the positive potentials for things. If something has to be confronting a negative, I'm going to be gentle about it, and I'm going to phrase it carefully if I can, and I'm going to not beat the person over the head with it. But there's whatever the content there is, I'm going to try and help the person find it as much as they're willing to. So there may be some times where a person is insistent about an understanding, and I just go with it because what do I know?
You feel like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or you feel like it wouldn't.
Well, if I make a suggestion and it doesn't resonate with the person, it does also take a person willing to be open to look at all the possibilities. So, but I also trust the dreamer to be my guide as to what's relevant, because I'll come up with 6 possibilities, and they have to say, the first 2 sound close, the other one's way off the mark, and so we just brush those off to the side. I'm just spitballing. I'm throwing out possibilities. So there it is entirely possible that some dreamers I've spoken with chose not to lean into certain possible understandings. I'm a little.
So
go ahead. Yeah.
It is like their discretion then.
It can be.
Probably it wasn't a match to the interpretation, but like if it was and they really didn't like it, then it's their discretion to steer away from that. I guess,
if they could have gained something valuable out of confronting something unpleasant and chose not to, nothing I can do about it. I don't think I've ever come away from an interpretation thinking someone did that on purpose, or thinking they leaned away from something they should have been willing to explore.
Okay.
Which, yeah. And there's been times where there was one episode where I couldn't get anything. Nothing I suggested had any resonance with the guy. I think it was episode number 19. And I think, we had a bunch of technical difficulties that day, kept dropping the call, kept freezing the video. It's all kinds of stuff, broke all kinds of, I'm going to blame it on the equipment. Poor craftsman blames his tools.
Or the cat.
It's definitely the cats, always the cats. Yeah. But I think that day I just kind of misfired. I couldn't wrap my brain around what that imagery meant to him. I couldn't get what is it called? An abstraction to categories that seemed relevant to his personal life. Now it could have been, and I don't want to blame the dreamer ever. It could have been he was unaware of some of those things or suppressing them. It could have been very much in that Freudian vein of like, I was making good suggestions and he couldn't let himself feel like it was relevant for pride, embarrassment. Who knows? I'm not going to say that though. I prefer to look at it like, I just was not firing on all 8 cylinders and just didn't have enough vision at that time to give someone good suggestions. So I'm happy to be that guy. I'm happy to be wrong if it gets us where we're going, or take the responsibility for just not having the mojo that day. That's fine,
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not easy work.
Definitely not going to get a lot of dreamers to come in if I'm like, well, you're just stupid.
No, if you're
that's terrible.
If you're accusatory.
I know that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And even, there may have been some times where I did feel people shy away from certain topics. No, and explicitly say, I don't want to talk about that. I was like, okay, that could have been very relevant, but that's not personal business to put on the internet. So if I can still give people something of value, near enough the mark, we'll leave that. But now, knowing that connection was made in their brain, they saw it and they said, we're going to leave that wrapped up. Now they can take what I did give them and hopefully apply that anyway and say, well, what do I think about that too in that context? And hopefully it's close enough.
Themselves.
Yeah,
they can do it themselves.
Yeah, and this is definitely. Go ahead.
There were some dreams I turned down as candidates because of like this is too sexual, right? Or this is too close to being sexual. I don't want that on my internet profile. Yeah.
Well, fortunately for me, I haven't had to reject any dreams that seemed too graphic. So I'll go on Reddit and I'll just message people. I'm like, hey, you posted requesting a dream interpretation. I'm a guy. Look at what I do. See if you want to join me. Get a bunch of people come from there. Nice. I might have messaged you. Yeah. There are some dreams. If someone says, not safe for work. And then I get in there and it's like, this was about, this contains sexual material involving myself as a young child. And I'm like, not going to have that on the channel. Like, number one, please go see a therapist, not me. This is not counseling and therapy. This is not the right context to address those things, especially if it actually happened to you and you're dreaming about it. But other than that, rape, child abuse, I don't lean into violent material, but if it's there, I have talked about it a little bit, some graphic descriptions. I'm a little more hesitant to get into stuff where it's like, this is real sensitive material and not, I don't feel right putting it on display as entertainment. So yeah. I'd rather go, as much as every dream is personal, there's some things that are just too personal. I try to be a little selective on that.
Personal. Yeah, I mean, this is the internet. You got to be careful.
It's very true. Very true. And you'll probably notice some of the episodes are you don't see their face. I put up a video loop. They're like, well, I want to talk to you. I want to share my dream. I want to get an analysis.
That's true.
Yeah. So I give them their anonymity, but I appreciate people it just makes a better video when people can see two folks talking. So, but I won't turn it down. Hopefully I will get to the point where I have so many people who want to talk to me. I can choose to have only the people who are willing to go on camera, but not yet. Someday soon. It'll be a good problem to have.
Yeah. I'll be telling people when they tell me they had a cool